that is the kind of story that I want to share with someone. And then when I've shared that story, here are some questions that we can ask the person. Isn't it better to treat the unborn as a patient since he is a human being?
Right.
Now they might respond, well, it's not a human being. That's different. Okay, then we talk about that, right? We try to. We've basically tried a toddler here. They're saying it's not human. Okay, well then we talk about that. But then if we can agree it's a human being, then shouldn't we treat her as a patient? If a child has a fatal deformity, is dismemberment really the most humane treatment we can give? Now, I think this is the kind of thing that I think one of the ladies was trying to get to on the video, but probably got to in a two-pointed way. I don't think I would maybe necessarily ask this of Aaron in that video, but I think once again we're on a college campus. We're talking about this. I think there's a very, very fair question. If a child has a fatal deformity, is dismemberment really the most humane treatment we can give? We give hospice care to the elderly when they're dying. Can't we give the same kind of care to the unborn, whose death is imminent? Can't we love both the parents and the suffering child who is dying? I know a lot of people kind of will frame it. You only care about this child. What about the parents? Well, can we love them both?
Right.
Is there a way that we can love them both? Here's a very general question: how should we treat disabled people? How should we treat disabled people? Well, we should give them palliative care. Once again, they might say, well, it's not a person. That's different. Okay, fine. Let's talk about that. What are the differences here? And we talk about that's. I mean, now you're back on topic.
Back on topic.
But those, I think, are very strong and powerful and fair questions that you could ask on this topic. After that, we want to, once again, refocus this conversation onto that one question that matters: what is the unborn?
Right.
So we're going to trot out a toddler. In this case, we trot out the really sick toddler.
Yeah.
And hopefully the abortion advocate will be forced to come to grips with their view. See, is recommending abortion as a solution to deformity because he doesn't believe the unborn is a human being. So if they say, would you force parents to have a deformed child? You could say, should we force parents to keep a deformed 2-year-old? Or should we let the parents kill her? The embedded moral question there is it right to kill someone because he is deformed? Right?
Or because they're going to die.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, and you could rephrase it depending on the situation. I mean, you can always improvise with this. You could say if the 2-year-old is going to die on the 3-year-old birthday, their third birthday, do we kill them? A few months in advance to spare them or whatever, right?
Right. I just in thinking about telling the story, it is really that's an important piece to it, and I don't want to gloss over that. As we refocus the debate on trotting out the toddler, that's part of building the emotional connection. And Liz and I have a niece, Hannah, who was born 3 months early.
She was born at 27 weeks.
So, okay.
So however many months that is.
I'm not sure how that translates. I think it's between 6 and 7 months early, I think.
Yeah.
And she had a what was said to be a fatal blood infection. They said she could live 11 minutes. She was born by C-section. I can still remember feeling her heart beat against my hand, and she literally fit into the two cupped hands quite comfortably. She fit in there. Her lungs functioned but barely, but everything else was not. She lived 37 hours, 38 hours.
Yeah, she lived a little over 2 days.
And, Katie and Jeremy, her parents, they look back on that time not as a time of pain. There was pain, but they look on it as a time of joy to be with their daughter. And I think when we look at something like this video, unfortunately, Aaron in the video, I don't think has been indoctrinated, taught, trained, or believes that the unborn are human beings.
Right.
Not in a malicious way. It's just what he believes.
Right.
Which is why he and his wife see an abortion as merciful, because they are not harming a human being.
Such a good point.
Right.
They are preventing a human being that will experience pain from coming into existence.
Right.
And also sparing themselves pain. Because, and that's what's so important about the original emotional and relational question, is to understand the actual pain that the parents will go through. This is not an easy process.
No.
It's a hard process, but the right choice.
Right, and the pro-lifer needs to not gloss over
Yes.
that either. But go ahead.
I have a slightly shifted story that can help our listeners and viewers get some perspective. I know of a couple, knew them years ago when I lived on the East Coast. She was physically deformed, but mentally very, very sharp. She had when she was born, the doctors had used the salad spoons kind of thing. They had to
The tongs
to get her out because she had some trouble coming out of her mother's birth canal, and accidentally they had cut off some circulation, and it caused, again, amazingly, her brain was fine. It was other mental growth issues that were problematic. She could not safely have healthy children. She had a hysterectomy. That was her way of preventing children from coming into a painful existence. But as we've talked about on the show, her ovaries and the eggs in her ovaries are parts of her body. They are not they're not genetic humans yet.
Right.
So she's not killing humans. Aaron appears to be in the same position. He sees his unborn child as not a human being yet, which is why he and his wife can make that decision. So as we reform the debate, we're trying to get back to what is human so that we can enlighten through facts our listener, those who we're speaking with, about the humanity and the life of the unborn.
Yeah. I think that's really helpful. If someone says, shouldn't we have mercy on the child and save him from pain while we can? Once again, we could try to a toddler or say, is it merciful to kill a toddler to save her from pain?
I think a good way to frame that would be, what do we do with children suffering from leukemia and other, you hear about the children at St. Jude's and how some of them, there is no cure. We're working on it, but they're going through incredible pain and suffering. But nobody talks about putting them out of their misery. I mean, it's especially at that young age. There's no debate about let's just put them out of their misery, and kill them.
Because we see that they're children, they're valuable human beings, and at the end, it's the same problem. We come back to this. We always come back to this. Is the major area of disagreement here? Are these valuable human beings or not? Because if they're not, who cares? But if they are, then suddenly this changes everything.
Suddenly, instead of there being only one option, because common sense tells you that, okay, if that's not a valuable human being, then you're an idiot for trying to create all this pain, all this stuff. But just that one paradigm shift changes the entire debate. Now,
this would be the least important point, but I don't think it's necessarily always a mistake to say it. If I'm in a conversation with someone and I've gone back and forth on this for a half an hour, they're pro-choice, we've been talking about fetal deformity for a really long time, it just I'm just not getting anywhere, but I feel like they're still willing to talk to me. I might ask them, for sake of discussion, let's say I agree with you. Let's say we keep abortion legal in this scenario. Would you join me in helping make the other abortions stop happening? Because fetal deformity is about 3% of abortions. So will you join with me on the other 97%? Or is there other, and that might help broaden, no, I'm actually for abortion also for this and this and this. And, can we talk about those? Because I'll just say, I'm very, very honest. I won't try to lie about it. Frankly, I feel like we're not getting anywhere here. I'm hearing you. We're not finding a common ground here. Is there other areas, we might try to find some common ground and then, move the discussion to, maybe another area that we disagree and we'll find some more common ground there.
That brings up something, and I'm interested in discussing things like, and I use this same tool when discussing rape and incest, but with fetal deformity or health of the mother issues. I use this when I'm discussing with someone to begin to build the emotional relationship, to begin to build the emotional connection. I'll often start with, that's a really tough question. I have to say, I'm not a doctor, but the good news that I've seen, the really good part, is these types of events are decreasing. That means our medical science is getting better, our ability to help and to save and to protect life. And that's just really exciting to me. Now, I got to tell you, that is a tough issue. And so I think maybe, let me tell you a story, and then I go into the discussion. Because one of the things that I think that does is it sets up whatever else I'm going to say in the reflection of, I'm here because I think human life is valuable, should be protected, and innocent human life that's suffering or in trouble should be treated with compassion.
Yeah.
And by starting with that, the good news is we're seeing improvement. It kind of puts a positive spin on it, even though the emotional connection might be dealing with some really emotionally traumatic and difficult things. It sets it in a better light.
Because otherwise, they might come into this just thinking you're just this jerk that doesn't even think about these things. You just want to make abortion legal because you don't care about women, you don't really care about kids, you only care about fetuses for some really weird reason.
Right.
You're trying to help kind of show a little bit like, how cool would it be if we didn't have to have so many miscarriages and all these things happen. Now, I don't know how, but how much we're ever going to be able to, can we ever prevent anencephaly from happening? I don't know.
Right.
But it allows you to also, that by starting with that, it almost, it's the little, especially if you're talking on a college campus, you can throw out the statistics. Because now it's putting it in the light of, hey, I'm willing to talk about this, but recognize it's a very, very small percentage.
Right.
We'll go back and talk about the other 95% in a minute, but very small. And so it kind of allows you
to But then
to
at the same time, you're also saying, but let's talk about this. Because this is where what I do get frustrated. Sometimes I'll see people, well, what about rape? Well, rape's only 1% of abortions.
Right.
So let's not talk about it. So we're not going to, whatever. It's like, no. That means it happens. That means 16,000 women a year are raped and have an abortion.
Right.
We should talk about them.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying use this as like a duck and cover. Let's go talk about the abortions that I feel better about. No, I'm just saying if you've talked about it for a half an hour, maybe that might be a way. Okay, can we find any common ground in another part of the discussion?
Because it's in these areas that we show the consistency of our view, and that is that they are equally valuable human beings that should be treated as we would treat other human beings in difficult situations. And if you completely ignore those, or completely focus on them, you're not balancing the issue. The truth is that there are this many abortions that happen all the time. We can totally agree about the majority. Okay, that's your common ground.
Right.
But you have to go beyond that and say, look, if I'm going to be faithful to what I know is true, we have to talk about how we treat human beings like you and I in difficult situations.
Here's some more common ground. When I tell Grace's story, I'll sometimes say, can we agree that there should be resources for parents in that case that want to keep the child? Because remember, see, they did all those research. There were no resources. Now that couple has gone off and made resources, and they've gone and put together a website and a network helping parents that are going through this network and hear each other's stories and talk about and know, like how to train the medical staff and all that. I mean, how sad was it that, but for them, since just parents were not giving birth to these babies, there weren't resources for them. So that might be another area of common ground. So remember, so to sum up, when you're talking about this, task one, as Kyle said, to show compassion for both parents and child. There's nothing wrong with parents wanting to have a perfectly healthy baby. That's what we all want.
Yes.
That's not bad, it's not wrong, it's not evil. Task two is to tell a story. I would tell Grace a story. There's also a video I'm going to link to called Choosing Thomas. That is a video version of another story that is like, you can't not cry when you
have Kleenex.
Cry.
Have Kleenex with that one. And then once again, refocus the discussion on the question, what is the unborn, with some helpful questions. So I hope that helps our listeners to prepare to go out there and feel more ready to actually go out there and do something instead of just watching pro-life videos or listening to pro-life podcasts.
You've been watching Life Report, pro-life talk, real-world answers. Life Report is produced by Right to Life of Central California. Visit their website at fresnoprolife.org.